these candidates probably do not need an introduction. If they'll each stand as I introduce them. Mayor Aaron Mendenhall, former Mayor Rocky Anderson, and Mr. Michael Valentine. Based on the random drawing, the candidates will be speaking in this order. Former Mayor Anderson will be first, Mayor Mendenhall will be second, and Mr. Valentine will be third. Each candidate will have 15 minutes, in which time I hope to ask at least 5 questions. Thus, each answer will be timed to 3 minutes. The timer, Dave Alderman, is sitting here in the front, will make the candidate aware when the time gets to 1 minute, 30 seconds, and then it's up, and we can go on to the next question. When the 3 15-minute discussion periods are up, each candidate will have 3 minutes to sum up their approach to the problems discussed. And now I have just a brief opening statement, and that is, while many of the debates have centered around questions of homelessness and housing construction, absolutely important questions, we've decided to concentrate on items that are of particular interest and importance to the Avenues and the Federal Heights communities. This is not to say that the homelessness and housing are not important, but we feel that those questions have been quite thoroughly discussed, positions established, and so we will hope that everyone has already gotten to those and listened to those positions. And so let's begin. And the first candidate is former Mayor Rocky Anderson. First question. Salt Lake City recently restriped South Temple. It went from 4 lanes to 2, with the addition of a turning lane and bike lanes. The city did this in part to protect bicyclists as well as slow down traffic. However, people have complained that the changes slow traffic too much. How do we balance our need for safer streets for both bicycles and vehicles and not cause traffic jams? And do you have other possible solutions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Should I take the mic?
You should.
Yes. Thank you for that question. When I was mayor for 8 years, we were facing these issues all over the city. How do we make things safe for every mode of transportation? And I issued the Complete Streets executive order, which later became an ordinance. But that set all of it in motion, saying that for every street in our city, it must have safe access for every mode of transportation. Now, we ought to be innovative about it. And innovation doesn't mean just painting a stripe down the street and calling it a bike lane. Although we did some of that when I was mayor, and we had to do some things like back-in parking, angle parking to save parking places down on 2nd South, as we had a lane that went all the way from the University of Utah to the Jordan River. But I've always said, even back then, and I was trying to put in place a sustainable plan that would lead to bike lanes adjacent to sidewalks. in the parking strip. The city owns the parking strips. And I've seen this in other parts of the world. And there is no reason why, if we have walkways called sidewalks for pedestrians, that we couldn't also have, and perhaps at a different elevation, drop down a little bit to separate it, or somehow to make it very safe for pedestrians, a separate bike lane, and then you don't have to put them in the streets. And it's not just a matter of slowing down traffic on South Temple. It is backed up. Cars are idling during busy hours, and it has been a mess. You don't see the kind of upset commuters, people that are saying, you know, our commute has increased 15 or 20 minutes a day coming up into this area, or people going into side streets. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen an increase in traffic on side streets. So I would very much favor, and we've got a drop piece that we've been dropping in neighborhoods that shows what you can do with the separate bike lane next to a sidewalk. And that takes away the necessity of narrowing down lanes that ought to accommodate traffic that flows without idling. I've done that very thing at Liberty Park. You might recall the bicycles had to share the roadway, and those on skates had to share the road with cars. We have a separate lane there now for bicycles and those on skates. We did that when I was mayor. We can do that in our neighborhoods to make it far safer for everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second question. The Greater Avenues Community Council is 9 distinct neighborhoods from City Creek Canyon to the University of Utah. We have a mix of housing with apartment buildings, family dwellings, estate homes, and the like. But we also recognize the need for more housing, particularly affordable housing. Recent zoning discussions for development projects on the upper avenues have been controversial and divisive. As mayor, what will you do to balance growth and still preserve a thriving avenues community?
That's a great question. One thing I can say, and I'm very clear about this, is this horrific Ivory development up F Street in the upper avenues is an insult to the entire area. It's counter to this idea. I oftentimes hear people in this administration say, well, we listen to the neighbors. Well, they don't. Whenever it was put out to a vote or the petitions, it was like the ratio was like 1,000 to 1 against it. There is such overwhelming opposition to that. And that goes to the general question. We've got all these wonderful, distinct neighborhoods throughout our city. And it should never be cast, as the current administration oftentimes does, between the rich and the poor, or West Side versus East Side. One of the best letters, most passionate letters I've read about this was a woman in Rose Park who said, we love our neighborhood the way it is. We love our single family residential zoning. Don't be cramming all these places into our neighborhood and changing the quality and character of our neighborhood. And I absolutely agree with that. We need to preserve the character of our neighborhoods while keeping in mind the need for truly affordable housing in our city. But you don't have to ruin the character of our neighborhoods in order to do that. One thing I've proposed is in between, for instance, just picture this, between the Rio Grande Depot downtown and the intermodal hub. You would be connected by virtually every mode of transportation along almost the entire Wasatch Front. You could build 25 to 30-story gorgeous buildings. I'm so tired of seeing the for-profit developers and what they've been building around the city with the help of the city's money. And the current administration says, well, we built 4,000 affordable units. And we put a record amount of money, like upwards of $50 million of public money stuffed into the pockets of developers to build what's mostly architecturally disastrous and insult to our built environment. We've all got a public interest in our built environment, but we could build in areas like west of the Rio Grande Depot, non-market housing that's mixed income that the city builds. And you've maybe seen calculations by the administration. Well, they've taken entirely out of their calculation the fact that the city would own it and the city would take in rents from those properties, and we could keep it permanently affordable and do it in the public interest, just like we build our libraries in the public interest, like we do our streets, our airport. This city has become one of the least affordable in the country, and we've got to take real steps toward building permanently affordable, mixed income, non-market housing, take it out of the market entirely. So when the market's going up and other market housing and people are housing insecure because they don't know what the rents are going to be from year to year in the city housing, you can control that and guarantee that people that move in will always be able to stay in their homes.
Thank you. Question number 3. Describe the current economic health of Salt Lake City. What specific economic sector do you believe should be the principal driver of Salt Lake City's future economic growth? And what do you think the economy will look like in 10 years?
Well, thank you. The large picture is we have become an incredibly gentrified city, and it goes back to the affordability issue I was talking about earlier. Many of you, I'm sure, have children that have no future in buying or renting a home in Salt Lake City. We hear, it's so sad to hear how quickly this has all changed. And again, if we provide that permanently affordable non-market housing, that's a great way to deal with that. But what I see, the first part of that question was about, I think, what is the driving economic sector? Fortunately, we have a very diverse, healthy economy. We have the University of Utah. We have a great health and research sector. We build up a lot of new businesses in Research Park and connected with University of Utah, and see too many of them leaving the state where we ought to be keeping them. But we do have a healthy tech industry, at least through this area. Most of it goes to Lehigh, but we're building up more and more, and we're filling a lot of offices with the tech sector. So I think it's that. I don't think it's any one single sector. Our diverse economy is going to carry us through a long, long way. And I think that's going to be for the future. Tech industry isn't going away. It's just going to get better and better. And for that reason, we need to work to make this the most attractive place possible. So with higher wages for everybody, and that would mean certainly getting rid of this obscene minimum wage that we still have in the state, and that will have ripple effects. But also in the tech sector, I think the average job is about $90,000. There are some places where it's the average is 110, and they're in the tech sectors. But up until recently, our low cost of living has been a great way to attract people in that sector. So I think that when we make housing more truly affordable, permanently affordable, rather than the kind of affordability the current administration talks about, where we're shoving all this money to developers and they're providing affordability, but only for those in the upper reaches economically, And people want to live together. People in these sectors, they're the creative class. They don't want to be segregated out with just people in their own economic sector. They want to have a fully integrated community, one that's creative, one that's open, one where there is a lot of different things to do. And with that, I have no doubt that we'll continue to be able to attract more and more people in the research and technology sectors. And with the thriving University of Utah and the medical community, I think that the future holds really great things for the city.
Thank you again. Question 4. The city is planning to upgrade the City Creek water treatment plant. An aspect of this is really heavy construction traffic, other hazards. Bikers and hikers can use it on weekends and holidays, something we've long been used to, but closed to all weekday traffic. Many Avenues residents recreate in the canyon regularly. Is there any way to increase the time available for hikers and bikers? Would it be possible to open the canyon in the evenings on weeknights, especially during when there's lots of daylight?
Great question. When the University of Utah light rail was being discussed, that line from downtown the university, we only had the one line, north-south. And when I was elected mayor the first time, the city council had killed that line of the light rail. It was done. And it looked like it wasn't ever going to get done, or at least certainly not before the Olympic Games. And the first Sunday after I was elected, and of course I wasn't mayor yet, but I held an open house at my home and asked all those in opposition to light rail to come and describe to us what their objections were, so that we could listen and figure out how to solve the problems that they foresaw. And we learned a lot. And so we went back, I worked with the heads of UDOT, UTA, the president of the University of Utah, and we took every single objection and fear that people had and came up with solutions. And some of it was very innovative. They were worried that the traffic would be closed like we're experiencing here. That's why I'm telling this. And we figured out a way. We said, okay, we can keep one lane of traffic open at all times. Very unlike what happened when light rail went in on Main Street. It was like a ghost town, and all those businesses suffered so much. And that was a big deal. And so was dust control, so was noise during construction. There were all these things that we learned through an open, transparent, collaborative process. And who has ever heard of anything like that with regard to City Creek construction? It's never happened. It's like they come in, they announce we're going to do it, and this is the way it is. And if you brought people together and listened to ideas like keeping it open later at night, but during daylight hours where you could expand the use, I'm sure that there are solutions that could be reached. And by the way, one of the things we did on that University of Light Rail line was we had a community coordination team of one person per block, and they got to decide whether the contractor would receive their discretionary periodic bonuses. And they ended up with 96% of their bonuses because they knew they had to comply with the contract and keep the neighbors safe. I think that all the users, and I use City Creek a lot myself, we all deserve a collaborative process where we sit down before contracts are let and we say, these are the things that we're worried about, and can't you fix this? Let's get back to problem solving and an open collaborative process. And the same thing is what we need for trails in the foothills. There was no collaborative process like that, no problem-solving process. The city went up and started gouging out some trails. Everybody was unhappy. And now there's a moratorium, so there's been a stop and go and stop process. Now with the moratorium, everybody's unhappy and we're no further ahead, and a ton of money has been spent on that. So you have to do that from the beginning. But now that everybody's more aware of this, I would very much encourage that kind of collaborative approach where everybody can be heard, hear the problems. Aren't there ways of resolving this so we can continue to use this fantastic jewel, a unique jewel in our city? I want to be running back up that road or on the trails up City Creek Canyon as much as I possibly can, and not let a long-term construction project get in the way. And there also need to be timelines on these constructions, like our road construction projects that never seem to have been coordinated these last few years. So with that, thank you very much.
You have anticipated question 5. And that is of particular interest to the Greater Avenues residents is the Foothills Trail System Plan in the foothills above the avenues as well. Between 2020 and 2021, the Public Lands Department began implementing the first phase of the plan. Due to public concern regarding trail building impacts, the city paused phase 1, started a reevaluation of the plan. What has Public Lands done since then? What is the current status, and what do you support in creating this plan?
Okay, thank you. Well, what should have been done from the very get-go? You do the studies, you do the geologic studies, you do the use studies, you have you take a look at the wildlife that's been impacted. It looks like the people that were up there gouging out the foothills initially and that were ordering it never had any idea about the impacts on the wildlife. So there are a lot of knowledgeable people in this community that could bring a lot of their knowledge and experience to bear on this. But you don't have that when you don't have a collaborative approach. Now we see what seems to be a clash, and it's really unfortunate, between a lot of good people. And that is, I mean, you see it between the mountain biking, and a lot of them are also hikers, but mountain biking enthusiasts and the hikers that love things the way that they are. I've brought people together around my dining room table, much as I did with the University of Utah light rail line. I've brought people from both sides around my dining room table to talk these things out. And it's amazing when you're not demonizing the other because you're taking shots over email or in the newspaper against each other, when you can bring people closer together and you can identify common values, you can identify those areas where there really is no argument, and then identify where there is an issue and what the process should be for resolving these things. But none of that was done. The administration was hearing from, you call them special interest groups, but from advocates on different sides, and it seems like whoever was loudest. And there were a lot of people, and I'm one among them, and I do take my dog, and I'm going to admit it, I take him off leash unless I know there are coyotes around. But I go up there a lot, and I know other people that go up there a lot. I know somebody in the symphonies up there virtually every day. None of us ever saw any notices. It caught us totally unaware when we saw the equipment that was up there. And by the way, they took heavy equipment up there and told them just zigzag it back and forth. And the width of the trails were dictated by how long the blades on the heavy equipment were. That is an insane way of doing it. We could have hired kids. We could go back to the CCC and hired some young people to go up and build some trails that aren't going to have all the erosion problems that we've had. But what we have seen now is a process disaster. All the money, all the consultants, the work that's been done, everybody getting mad. and then saying, okay, let's have a moratorium probably until after the election at least. But that's not the way to go about it. I bring all the parties together and find out what we can do to meet the needs and values of everybody. But I think the value that everybody in this community, the number one value, is conservation and making sure that we are good stewards of our foothills.
Thank you very much. Mayor Mendenhall. Wait until we're all done, please.
Oh, did you want me to do a closing statement now? Or?
No.
Okay.
Nope, you get your closing statement in due time. Hi. Well, you've heard the questions, but I'll repeat them, okay? Unless you have a photographic memory. If
Not
you do,
yet.
I won't do it, but. Okay. So Salt Lake City recently restriped South Temple, went from 4 lanes to 2, with the addition of a turning lane and bike lanes. Did this in part to protect bicycles, as well as slow down traffic. However, people complain that changes slow traffic too much. How do we balance that need between safer streets for both bicycles and not cause traffic jams?
Thanks, and thanks
Sure.
for moderating us tonight.
Sure.
It's good to see a packed house up at Sweet. Good job, Greater Avenues Community Council, and thank you for hosting us tonight. Balance is the word, and complete streets is an ordinance that's been in the book since Mayor Becker, actually because former mayor couldn't get it through the city council, as was the case with a lot of pieces he wanted to implement, but couldn't get the council to go along. And so since the Becker administration, the council is obliged, actually, every time that we're going to do a dramatic repave, we're gonna dig it up and rebuild it, or we're gonna do a chip and slurry seal, we have the opportunity to do the paint differently. We have to consider, what is the traffic volume? What's the peak flow requirements on that road? What other users are using that road today? And then what are the rates of accidents that happen and what kind of accidents are happening? Those are the basic things we always look at. And this ensures that, as you can guess, not every street is the same. Every single one is different. And it's important that we consider those very specific parts. So those factors, looking at South Temple in that section, especially east of 7th East, which is where the bike lane addition has been, made it such that the complete streets ordinance and the facts that we had said this can accommodate a bike lane, and that some accidents and what we've called traffic violence would be minimized by having a center turn lane, a protected turn lane. And many of the accidents that were happening on that street had to do with people waiting to turn left, someone trying to get around them quickly, and accidents happening. So those are facts. And you really probably don't want those kind of decisions to be made at a political level. I know I don't, as a resident. I don't want my city council person or my mayor who lives in that neighborhood to be lobbying for whatever uses they think are going to be best versus what the traffic engineers are going to be able to look at the data and make a better decision. Now on South Temple, we hear a lot from neighbors lately who are saying the traffic is so much worse. It's really an impact, it's detrimental. I have to tell you also, we hear from neighbors, your neighbors, who say, I love the bike lane. It's made biking more accessible for me and my family. Kids who live on the east side who are going to West High School, we hear from their families too. So there are two sides to this discussion. Know that our traffic evaluators have cameras at the lights and they're evaluating the flow and congestion at peak hours right now. They are seeing so far that the traffic is typical for urban downtown traffic, although it's more on South Temple. So someone asked me the other night, is it permanent? Well, streets are always changing in Salt Lake City. Our evaluation is continuing. Your feedback matters. And what South Temple looks like into the future is going to be based and should be based on the facts of traffic and accidents, not on the opinion of the mayor or the political sway at the time. And I'm always going to be honest with you about what our process looks like. That's what's going on with South Temple.
Thank you. Our Greater Avenues Community Council consists of 9 distinct neighborhoods, from City Creek to the U of U, a large area. We have a mix of housing with apartment buildings, family dwellings, estate homes, and the like. We also recognize the need for more housing, particularly affordable housing. Recent city zoning discussions for development projects on the upper avenues have been controversial and divisive. As mayor, what will you do to balance growth and still preserve a thriving avenues and Federal Heights, I might add, community?
Balancing growth. I think the word balancing might be in every question, and that's for really good reason. We have the fastest growing state in the nation. We've had the strongest downtown recovery in the nation, 139% more people coming downtown than we had in 2019. We have a doubling downtown population, which has hovered around 4,000 to 4,900 people for a very long time. And it's going to touch 10,000 in the central business district by 2025. Balancing growth is a really key part of municipal government. And we haven't always grown in a balanced way. When you look at income disparities geographically across the city, they've remained relatively the same over most of our history. Redlining and the impacts of that, although undone in the 60s, are still affecting economic outcomes of families in the city, especially Central City and the west side of Salt Lake City. And equality and equity are not the same thing. So how do we balance where we have had inequity, from tree distribution to access to transit, to access to job centers, from graduation rates of our own kids, from obesity statistics? You balance this by recognizing what is imbalanced in the first place. And housing equity, in terms of access to affordable housing and different housing types, has been different across the city too. So the affordable housing overlay is one of those ways that the city has been working to try to bring greater geographic equity to access of housing. We put this through a process, and about a year ago, we got about 1,500 comments from residents, which is a lot for us. And I did something mayors don't usually do. It was in the planning commission. It had received more than 1,000 comments at that point, and I pulled it out after the planning commission had looked at it. Usually, once it sails out of the mayor's office and the planning division to the commission, it goes straight to the council from there. I pulled it out because clearly we needed to have more conversation. And we invited people from the spectrum of resident opinions, from the NIMBYs to the YIMBYs and in between, housing advocates like Crossroads Urban Center, some of you folks are here tonight, housing academics from the University of Utah who study housing trends and zoning impacts, and developers who were saying, you think you're going to get this out of it, but it's not even going to allow us to build that. And we put them together with 3 separate sessions and a moderator to try to come to a consensus. That was my request. Could you come to consensus recommendations on the 5 biggest arguments being made from the 1,500 comments? And I didn't say they had to, but they actually did. And those consensus recommendations now are before the city council. They've been holding public hearings. I expect that they will be voting on it in one of their upcoming meetings. And it hasn't received 1,500 or even 150 comments, I think, because we brought it back to the community and listened. We came up with a better product because of it. This impacts every neighborhood differently, and that's why the design and the context of the neighborhood consideration is such an important part of it. Local historic zoning still applies. Those restrictions and those rules will still apply, but we need to grow. How we grow is what matters. And your voice is helping to shape how we grow, and that we grow in a balanced way. So I know I didn't get specific about that development up there. But I want to say one more thing. I know I'm at time. Mayors do not get to tip the scale. What if I didn't like Mexican food? By the way, I love Mexican food. I've eaten it twice today. But what if I didn't? And I said, you know what? We've got enough of these Mexican food restaurants. We can't do this anymore. I know you've got a permit in to open a new one. No, no. The process exists as it is for good reason, because any one of you can access the same process. And when we have a mayor who says, I'm gonna tip the scale on this, even though it is absolutely not my authority, and I'm gonna maybe just lead an angry group of people with me to get headlines, to influence the process, to make it unfair, that's not good for any of us. So although you may like his opinion, some of you may like his opinion on a certain project, it is a very dangerous place to allow a mayor to go in tipping the scale in a process that was built for fairness. That's the truth. Your voices do matter. And the city council process of land use decisions is where that plays out. It shouldn't be because the mayor puts the thumb on the scale.
Thank you. If you would be a little quicker on the next one.
You didn't ask him to.
Well, a little longer.
Yeah.
Describe the current economic health of Salt Lake City. What specific economic sector do you believe should be the principal driver, or is the principal driver, of Salt Lake City's future growth? And what might the economy look like in 10 years?
Yeah, thank you. Finance and banking has been the primary economic sector for our downtown economy for decades. And as I already mentioned, we've had the strongest downtown recovery in the nation. And one of the unique things that's happened in this flip since 2020 is that our economy is flipped, and no longer is finance and banking or even the whole 9-to-5 office industry the primary source of our economic mobility. The majority of our economy now is entertainment, recreation, shopping. We have more people spending money in the city, having a good time, than we have coming in to go to work from 9 to 5 and go out to lunch and then maybe buy a birthday gift for a family member or something on their lunch break. And that's a good thing. We are changing from an 18-hour downtown city to, I'm sorry, an 8 to an 18. We've officially bumped up in the category of national cities from a small city to a medium-sized city. And as we grow, it is not a given which industries thrive here. And I appreciate Mr. Anderson bringing up the tech sector. Part of the reason I ran for mayor in 2019 was because I was sick of seeing mayors thumb their nose at the state and make enemies out of our should-be partners. And a lot of them went south, and a lot of them went to Silicon Slopes. Real Salt Lake is also not in Salt Lake and should be in Salt Lake. And so we started Tech Lake City. Tech Lake City was built to amplify the cool tech businesses that are already here that had no collective identity. We founded the BioHive with a lot of tech sector people to bring an identity to that in that economy. And we've changed some of our zoning even. We never even contemplated the kind of biomedical manufacturing and different technologies that we didn't allow because it hadn't been invented yet. So we've updated our zoning in parts of the city to allow these companies to be here. And we're seeing that growth happen. We're seeing companies and industries like Altitude Labs that were up at Research Park come off of the hill and put their roots down in the downtown economy. There's a bumpability word. That's where these businesses, even different and seemingly disparate businesses in the tech umbrella, want to be in the same area. They want to be able to go to the same barbershop, have lunch together, and bump into each other because they are sticky jobs. They stick around. People in that industry tend to stay in the industry. It's the highest paying, fastest growing, most economically resilient industry in the state of Utah. And I'll tell you why we see this growing. Because Salt Lake City has too many families who haven't benefited from the growth we've been experiencing, especially Central City, West Side families, where parents are working too many jobs to take care of their kids. And I see it as the city's job to make those connections between our schools, our neighborhoods, our families, and this industry. And that work is happening. The entertainment part of that is growing, and you should see, we want to see, we're on the cusp of seeing another Winter Games awarded to Salt Lake City. That's not by coincidence. Major League Baseball has a real possibility of coming to Salt Lake City, down at the Power District on North Temple. And our National Hockey League is looking seriously at Salt Lake City. This is our future economy. It's a good time. It's about getting around with transit. It's about a green loop that connects you and makes it easier and more fun to walk wherever you're going. And a bustling downtown that anticipated the growth that's happening here and built the transit and the park infrastructure to accommodate it. It was a little short.
Thank you very much. Number 4, the city is planning to upgrade the City Creek treatment plant. With it, there's heavy construction traffic, hazards in the canyon. Bikers and hikers can use it on the weekends and holidays, but closed to all weekday traffic. Since many Avenues residents recreate in the canyon regularly, is there any way to increase the time available for hikers and bikers?
I can already say yes, because just 2 days ago, Public Utilities announced that they've been hearing the community and working with the contractor, and they feel that they can open the trail system up to picnic site 16 and keep that functional throughout construction. Now, our weekends and holidays on the roadway up to that point is difficult because of the width of the road. And using Fourth Temple as a comparison is not a very good comparison, because we have obviously City Creek on one side and an ecosystem and a mountain slope on the other side of City Creek Road. I shared a story with some neighbors here earlier tonight, actually, who had just come up to tell me they really appreciated the outreach to the community that happened and the robust discussions that happened in this room with the community council leading up to this. And I shared that there was an experience just a couple of weeks ago, right before we did the press conference announcing the closure, that tractor was doing some early work, and it was in the roadway. Of course, it was coned off, and they were lifting a large metal plate, about 8 feet by 6 feet, a steel plate hanging from the tractor. And a cyclist rode their bike between the steel plate and the tractor while it's working. It's a I'm sure the cyclist said, there's no room on this side, and the tractor's up to the side on this side, there's nowhere else to go, I'm gonna shoot through. We don't want someone to be killed or seriously injured. And the breadth of that road is what it is. I hope no one wants us to excavate out the mountain and try to make a pass around. That's a really bad idea from an environmental perspective, and also would probably prolong the duration of the project and certainly the cost. It's a miracle that we've made it this long with that water treatment facility still functioning. Did you know it's the first water treatment facility west of the Mississippi? The first in America west of the Mississippi. We've been through a lot of earthquakes, not just the 2020 earthquake. And it did sustain some pretty serious damage in the 2020 earthquake. So I know it's a very long time, but I hope that you're already seeing from Public Utilities that we're going to keep evaluating. We know everybody loves and relies on it, and we want it to be open as much as possible, but we're just not willing to risk your life or your well-being. So we won't make decisions that do that in any way, but stay tuned. And if you aren't already tuned into Public Utilities, social media or their emails, please sign up and you'll know when that happens.
Thank you. Very informative answer. Appreciate it. Of particular interest for the Greater Avenues residents is the Foothills Trail. And this first question and fourth question always seems to lead into the fifth one. So between 2020 and 2021, the Public Lands Department began implementing the first phase, but due to public concern regarding trail building impacts, the city paused that and started an evaluation of the plan. What has Public Lands done since then? What's it doing now? What is the current status?
Thanks. Some of you, you know it because you've been working on it with us. Some of you helped us shape it up on the trails with me and our public lands team. And I want to start by saying thank you to you community members who alerted us in those early parts of the pandemic when this work was starting, that we needed to pause. And that the idea of creating a map that said, this is the rough direction, or this is the direction, and this is the rough path of a new trail was insufficient. And the city recognized that. Thank you for helping us. But I think that we should also acknowledge that it was not a given that the Foothill Trails System Plan would be funded. And we did that early on in my administration, to put several $1 million to implementing the first phase of the Foothill Trails Plan. And we've continued to make that our objective and to fund that outcome. But you've been helping us. So we knew that we needed to change the way that our contractors could approach, and also who our contractor was building those trail systems. At the same time, the city recognized that we had not only no relationship with Indigenous tribal leaders, we had a deficit of relationship, because no administration has ever built a real relationship, government to government, with tribal leaders. And we wanted to make sure, as we heard from some of you, that we weren't trespassing on really sensitive and culturally sensitive assets. So we have been building a relationship. Today is the beginning of Native American Heritage Month. Thanks for doing the land acknowledgement, Phil, wherever you are. And we've been building this relationship with Ute and Ute Mountain Ute tribal leaders since 2021. And to build from a deficit is a very humbling place to be. They have been very engaged with us. We were just together earlier this morning, and that work is changing the way the trails are going to develop also. So the city council approved making permanent on our peanut board, Parks, Natural Lands, Urban Trails board that we've affectionately called Peanut, that there are 2 positions held for Indigenous leaders in the community, or someone who works with a Native American organization in the community. And those 2 positions are filled now. And their voice in helping consistently shape any questions that come up along the Foothill Trails development, or any other trail systems that may impact those areas, like Warm Springs, which we've now funded. Thank you for your support in the bond. That work is, that outreach begins with the community next month, so please engage. That's happening, and those voices are now permanently engaged. So you will see construction happening again with the foothills, and your voices are permanently needed and wanted in this process. So thanks for meeting me up on the trails. I'll always be happy to meet you up there. And I want to give a shout out that your council member, Chris Wharton, who's in the audience tonight, has done a great job advocating for you too. That's my last one.
Thank you very much. Yes, you have done the gamut here. And the last candidate is Michael Valentine.
How's it going?
How are you?
Good, good.
Well, I guess I'll ask the question, then I'll give you the mic.
All righty, let's do it.
Unless you anticipate before I ask, you probably have them memorized by now.
Public transportation, zoning, historic areas, economics, and Salt Lake, trails and foothills.
Do you need a rehash?
If you
Yeah.
like, sure, why not? We'll do it for prosperity.
So Salt Lake recently restriped South Temple, went to 4 lanes to 2, with the addition of a turning lane and bike lanes. It was done part to protect bicyclists and to slow down traffic. However, people have complained about how traffic has slowed down, especially going up 100 South, I would say, to the university. That's not part of that, but still. How do we balance our need for safer streets for both bicycles and vehicles and not cause traffic jams?
Sure. Thanks so much, Michael Valentine. So good to be here. I sadly missed the Avenue Street Fair this year. There's some miscommunication, so very happy to be here. Been a long time supporter of the Avenues and the Greater Avenues Community Council. Very happy to have one of my friends in the audience that ran for City Council in 2021. So this is a very important issue, and I think this will be a growing pattern in the next remaining questions. But basically, whenever something's going on in the city, you know, we gotta start with the foundation. Who does the mayor, who does the city council work for, right? They work for all of you guys. They work for the city. So it's crazy to me that like the current pattern of this administration just ramming projects through, doing all these things. And then when people get pissed off, then they're like, whoa, and then they slow down and then they finally start listening to the community. That needs to go back to all the way to the beginning of these projects. The community should have always been listened to when this project was started and find that balance that she was talking about for biking, for cars, and not adding a negative impact to the city of slowing down traffic. So I think everyone knows we're close to downtown. As Solid grows, we're running out of space for cars. There's going to be more investments in public transportation. There's going to be less and less space for driving cars. So we need to figure out other forms of transportation, expanding tracks, expanding rails. And then also, you know, a lot of folks love biking and keeping bikers safe with protected bike lanes and that sort of thing. One idea I also really am a huge admirer of is actually bringing back historic trolley lines. We used to have incredible trolley lines that rivaled, you know, San Francisco. I think the Avenues is amazing historic neighborhoods. It'd be awesome to have historic trolley lines going out. I think it'd be one of the number one places people would come and, you know, to see for like tourism and seeing areas where we have these historic buildings, and bringing trolley lines would bring an amazing addition to tracks and to public transportation. So we got to be looking at all these little pieces and saying, you know, where can we help out biking? Where can we help out tracks and public transportation, and really be making the smart investments, starting with the voices of the community, not at the end of the process, but listening to everyone from the ground up and building for that. So I would absolutely look at this project and figure out how we can bring back what changes need to be made, and make sure that we're not slowing down traffic. We're not creating things that have negative impacts for the communities in ways that we don't intend, and we listen to the public from the get-go.
Thank you very much. The Greater Avenues Community Council is one of 9 distinct neighborhoods from City Creek Canyon to the University of Utah, with a mix of housing, apartment buildings, family dwellings, estate homes. But we also recognize the need for more housing, particularly affordable housing. Recent city zoning discussions for development projects on the upper avenues have been controversial and divisive. As mayor, what would you do to balance growth and still preserve a thriving avenues?
So I love this question. The Avenues have been one of the strongest supporters of saving the Pantages, which was kind of the work I was known for. I have international attention from this, and assembled people from around the world to fight for historic preservation. We actually started a 501c3 nonprofit, sorry, that I'm the director of, Friends of the Pantages. I'm also the director of a new restorative society for historic preservation. So this is a question I absolutely love. And I also have a real estate license, so I kind of run both worlds. So there's this whole disconnect where it's always, you know, historic preservation versus building and construction and growth. That is not the scenario. That's not the case. It's 2 parties pitted against each other. The Avenues is such an important historic area in Salt Lake and in Utah. We need to protect that. We need to make sure we're growing in the right ways and not destroying the character of our city, which is the Avenues, which is downtown, which is the Pantages, which is all these things. And there's lots of lies that have been coming out of this mayor's mouth during this campaign. A lot of these lies are about this deal with the theater. They lied about every single aspect of it. They inflated restoration costs. They lied about the building being eligible for the historic registry, eligible for national tax credits. They basically gave this away to a $0 deal to Texas billionaires for free, and went against the entire public, which is again what we see in almost every one of these questions. So it's very important that we are protecting Salt Lake, and I really can't emphasize this enough. We can find solutions. I wasn't just running to save the theater or fighting to save it. I was trying to buy it. I made an offer for $500,000, up to offer to $2 million. We are actually building affordable housing above the theater, so we can absolutely have our cake and eat it too. We can save our historic buildings and build more housing. And then I'd also like to reiterate that there's a document that was passed in 2012. It's the Community Preservation Plan. It's an amazing document. It's about 200 pages long. It talks about historic preservation for the entire city. Every city department is supposed to be following it. Planning, the RDA, business services, everything. It's being ignored. So like this Ivory home still that I actually was, showed up to public meetings and spoke out against. I was one of the only people from District 4 that wasn't from the avenues that came to those meetings and spoke out to support the public, to support you guys in the avenues against those properties. They just kept running it through. Funny enough, the mayor mentioned that she took donations from Ivory Homes, by the way. It seems like that's kind of relevant to the situation, but there's an important balance again where I think what needs to be happening is developers need to come to the table and they need to listen to the public. They need to build things that the people are excited about. There's absolutely developers that could show up and into the avenues and build something on that land that the public would rally around, that they would love. There's developers like restructuring old apartments to build places for homeless folks and community approach first. So we need to have that balance from there.
Thank you. Describe the current economic health of Salt Lake City. What specific economic sector do you believe should be the principal driver of Salt Lake City's future economic growth? What do you think the economy will be in 10 years? Tough, that one.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a good situation right now. I'm the only person running up here who's a working class person. I'm the only one that rents an apartment. I don't own a building or own a house. So I actually live in an RDA project that just opened in the summer. My rent is $2,000 a month. I don't think that's affordable. That's what the city is subsidizing right now, luxury apartments. So I really worry about our current trajectory. That's one of the reasons I'm running. It's one of the reasons I'm talking about so many systemic issues, not just putting band-aids on solutions. I worry what's going to happen the next few years as our city gets gentrified, as prices go to $2,500 a month, $3,000. Well, where are people supposed to live? I'm a millennial. I'm 35 years old. I found out if I would be elected, I'd be the third youngest mayor in city history. Millennials are a fascinating bunch. We're the first generation in America to go backwards and have a worse quality of life than our parents. We have two options. We can either rent these expensive housing, or we can go buy like $1 million properties we can't afford. So the opportunity is for us to really become owners and actually live that American dream, which is how normal people build equity and wealth through ownership, has really been denied to us. That needs to change. We're not just talking about housing people off the streets. We're talking about also, making sure people in housing right now aren't priced out and getting pushed to other areas, outside of the districts, outside of Salt Lake City boundaries. So going back to what I'd like to see, I think the backbone of not just economics here in Salt Lake and Utah, but across the whole world, is always working class people. We need better living quality of life, which means lowering housing costs so people have more disposable income, so they're spending more money in local businesses, which is also the other backbone we need to be investing in. Back to the Pantages still, there's so many problems with it. First of all, they destroyed a historic theater. The second part is they gave $20 million of public property to a company named Heinz, Texas billionaire company. They manage $160 billion in real estate globally, one of the biggest companies in the world. Why is the city giving $20 million of public property to billionaire real estate developers? We got to ask ourselves what the hell is going on. So why aren't we investing in the community, in small businesses, in the public? Why aren't we building housing that's actually affordable? $500 for 1 bedroom, $750 for a 2-bedroom. Why isn't the mayor and the city council working for working class people and not corporations and real estate developers? They're up here talking about big business, tech companies and all these things, which is wild because, she's taking money from Maverick, from Delta, like thousands and thousands of dollars from these big corporations. Who is she working for? Is she working for the public, or is the mayor supposed to be up here as a CEO working for corporations and developers? I'm running to serve the public. I'm running to serve the community. I'm running to work for all of you.
Number 4, the city is planning to upgrade the City Creek water treatment plant, as you know. With its heavy construction traffic, other hazards in the canyon and so on, bikers and hikers can use it on weekends and holidays, but closed to all weekday traffic. Avenues residents recreate in the canyon regularly. Is there any way to increase the time available for hikers and bikers?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of, opening the canyon at night for people. It is important to keep it safe, but it's also important that, again, public services aren't being cut as construction is going on. This isn't just a problem we see in the avenues. We see it all over the city. There's construction problems going on all over the place. Third West, we've been joking, it's like taking longer to build than the pyramids. It took so long to build that and finally finished. I have a store down by the gateway. Down by the gateway, there's a block just like a bit west of that. There's like literally like 3 apartment buildings being constructed right now. And it's crazy because sometimes they have the road completely off. There's no sidewalks. There's no ordinances like being followed. Like it's breaking ADA accessibility laws where people are trying to get around these sidewalks that these companies and construction companies have just completely taken over. They've taken over our whole streets. There's no enforcement. So again, it's like, who's the city supposed to be working for? I think it's important that construction needs to happen and these things need to go on, but there's also, again, a balance, and the community always needs to come first. There needs to be timelines, there needs to be metrics that are following, there needs to be ordinances that are followed. They can't be blocking sidewalks, they can't be blocking roads, they can't be blocking trails where people need to go and enjoy. So there's so many issues that again, kind of going back to the central point of this, of just doing things without the community's input from the very beginning. There's easy wins here for like across the board. I talked about sanctioned camping and homelessness and housing. That's a win-win-win for everybody. To get everyone off the streets, it's better for businesses, it's better for homeless folks, it's better for everyone. There's these wins that we can have our cake and eat it too, where we're not just like putting one person against the other, having one special interest group, having all the weight in the community. We can have these projects that work for everybody, that are balanced, that are fair, and not adding negative impacts to the community.
Thank you. And finally, the Greater Avenues residents are particularly interested in the Foottail Trail System Plan. Between 20 and 21 and between 2020 and 21, the Public Lands Department began implementing the first phase of the plan due to public concern with trail building impacts. The city paused, number one, caused an evaluation of the plan. So what has Public Lands done since then? What's the current status?
Yeah. So I think this deal was always a mess from the beginning. I think we all know this. Again, going back to the pattern of just ramming these deals through without public input, without public knowledge, without meetings and all this stuff from the beginning. I was a huge fan of the Save the Foothill Trails folks. I met them at the Avenues Street Fair about 2 years ago. They told me they love my theater documentary. And what's interesting about this too is like these situations, they really mirror each other, right? So we're protecting our lands, protecting outdoors is very similar to protecting historic neighborhoods, protecting historic homes and housing. We are stewards of right now. It's not our job to destroy history. It's not our job to destroy the environment. We have to pass this on to our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and just carry it right now and pass that on. So what happens in the foothills can have huge ramifications decades and centuries on from now. It's important we are protecting the cultural areas, indigenous heritage, that these people have a seat at the table, not just on this issue, but on all issues that are affected by police brutality. Indigenous folks are way more likely to be shot than anyone else. So all these things need to be, again, balanced out, and we need to be listening to the public. It's crazy to me that there wasn't a better plan going forward with this, having these trails mapped out. Again, always from the point of the community and the public first. I'm not running to just tell everyone what to do. I'm running to be a mouthpiece of the community, to actually serve you and actually listen to the community and just do what you guys want to see done, and then balance that out with everything going on in the city. It's not my job to rail things through, which is wild to me that she says, what was the quote here? Tip the scales, which is, again, amazing, because that's the whole history of her administration, is tipping the scales, taking monies from these corporations, ignoring the public on Ivory Homes, on Foothills, on Pantages, all these deals. Like, how many patterns of projects do we need to see that this is who she is? This is her behavior of just ramming things through, ignoring all of you, ignoring the public. It needs to end right now. We need a mayor that actually is there to serve the community, not her husband's real estate deals, not these corporations, and not millionaires and billionaires that are going against the public interest.
Thank you very much, Michael. We're running overtime, not unusual when you get a bunch of politicians together. And so instead of 3-minute conclusions, we're going to cut it to 2 and hope that we can stay within those limits. And we're going to reorganize the order, and the first will be Mayor Mendenhall.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for showing up time and time again and sitting through meetings and showing up to public hearings. Thank you. We're growing. We've been growing for a long time. We're growing and growing it together. And you have helped us shape every plan that we're making. The Foothill Trails plan, the affordable housing plan. How we're growing, it is our business at city government to do it with you. And we've been through a lot. 3.5 years, we've been through a lot. We've also seen an increase in crime in 2020 and early 21 across this nation, here in Salt Lake, here in the state of Utah. And in Salt Lake City, we've turned that right around. And for more than year to date now, crime is down 15% in Salt Lake City. Violent crime is down 12%. On the west side, crime is down 29%. We've rebuilt our police department. We've been looking at affordable housing crisis for, it's almost touching 2 decades now, for the fastest growing state in the nation. And for the first time, Salt Lake City's invested big time in affordable housing creation. We've invested so much that it's more than every administration combined before us. 413% more invested in the creation of affordable housing units. That's 4,000 units that didn't exist before. And guess what? They're not on 2 blocks all clustered together, not going into the rest of the community. They're spread throughout the community. You can't tell the difference between most of them and any other unit. We're moving, we're growing. And for an air quality person, we're finally not at 2050, as Rocky Mountain Power told us when I started as mayor, but at 2030 for 100% renewable energy in this city. And then when it comes to homelessness, it's no longer this is the city's problem from the state legislature. They are leading the strategies. The county, the city, and other cities are stepping up together, and the state's funding it. And we're growing shelter like never before. 600 winter beds are opening right now, more than we've had since the old road home was closed. We're not alone anymore. We're not alone because we're builders. We're not destroyers. And we deal in the reality that we exist in with a supermajority Republican legislature, and we don't walk away angry, throwing fists, because we get nothing when we do that. We stay at the table and we get the best damn deal we can. And we're doing pretty great. We're not perfect, but we're pretty great. And I want to keep us going forward. I don't want to go backwards. I want to keep building with you. So we'll acknowledge when we need to do better. And we're grateful that you help us see when those times are. And you know we're always going to keep showing up with you. I hope I can count on your vote on November 21st. When you take your turkey out of the oven, think to yourself, or out of the freezer, I want you to think to yourself, did I put my ballot in the mailbox? Because that's the election day. Thank you for having me tonight.
Okay, actually, Michael was supposed to be next, but the way we have the plan set up anyway. However, plans are meant to be broken.
Thanks so much. It's so good to be here. So I'm not a politician. This is the first election I ever ran in. There's so many lies going on in this campaign that it's just like overwhelming to me that I just have to respond to it. So the last debate, Aaron said I was spreading conspiracy theories about this. So I brought all the documents here to show you. There's no conspiracy theories. I went on Utah Stories twice over an hour and a half talking about the Pantages corruption. I got an entire 10-page document full of people all across the world that can corroborate everything I'm saying. I got an op-ed here that the Salt Lake Tribune currently refuses to write or to publish, all about the investments that her and her husband made when she was running for mayor in 2019 with the company Renee Properties. Even before her husband left the city council in 2015, they petitioned to buy public property. The petition number's right here. In 2018, when she was re-elected to city council, she signed a disclosure form right here, conflict of interest, disclosing a company right here, Renee Properties, that didn't even exist. They pushed this deal through. She announced she was running for mayor in March of 2019. They bought this public property in 2019 in July. Guess when this business was registered with the state of Utah? October. Three months later than when they purchased it, almost 4 years later from when he petitioned to buy this land. I don't think public corruption is pretty great. I think it's pretty terrible. And I think we need a mayor and a city council that actually works for the public, that's not there getting rich, for get rich quick scheme, buying public property fraudulently, deceiving the public, hiding their assets, giving historic public theaters away to billionaires for free and $0 deals that violate Utah historic law, state historic law, and are worse for the city. We don't need 4 more years of a corrupt destroyer, is what she is. We need a new mayor. We need someone that actually serves the public, is there to serve you. It's not happening right now. So rank me first. Let's get a new Utah, even new Salt Lake City. Whoa.
You all knew me. Most of you knew me because you've been at this a long time as I look out in this audience. For 8 years, we were the most accessible administration ever. People were writing about how our openness and transparency. We would go out once a month, have Saturday morning with the mayor, and it wouldn't just be the mayor, it would be the head of every single department. So you could come in if you had any problem, concern, question, there were people there that could jump on. We also had community news and community conferences at least once a month. Those were in the evenings, but people could make it on Saturday mornings. The same thing, every department had. So you got answers. If you had any of the questions that came up tonight, you didn't have to wait till an election was held and the mayor finally came out. You had access to everybody working on these issues. And it was the same open, continuous process as we engaged in that I told you about with the University of Utah light rail line. Now, we heard the mayor say, oh, the mayor shouldn't be putting the thumb on the scales. It goes beyond that. The mayor is over the planning department. Who do you think started the process to allow the Ivory development up here that is an absolute, it is such a disgrace for this community that is so opposed to it. And she says, oh, it'd be somehow inappropriate to put your thumb on the scale. And then she told you about how she pulled back a planning decision away from the council so they could rethink it. So which way is it? I will tell you, you know what you're getting with me. You know it will always be an open, honest process. The trails development, everybody would have known about it. Everybody would have been at the table. It would have been a collaborative process, and it wouldn't have been this incredibly wasteful start and stop process. I've got so much more to say, but my time is up. I'd love to chat with any of you afterwards. Thank you for being such incredible citizens of our city and all of your engagement and your passionate interest in the future, not only of your neighborhoods, but this entire city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. How about if we give Jean Fitzgerald a hand? Thank you to our guests and our candidates. We wish all of you the best of luck. you want to regroup and go ahead and take a deep breath, you guys are welcome to leave at any time. We won't consider that rude. There are ballots, voter registration in the back. David Berg's holding those up right now. There's a QRL code on our website. There's a QRL code in our newsletter for ranked choice voting information so that everybody has all the information they need about how to vote. And so now we'd like to turn the time over to Diane Leonard in regards to our restriction voting.
Thank you. So last month, we had presentations at our meeting that were regarding the removal of a restrictive covenant that is covering 18 homes here on the avenues. So tonight, we are going to vote on that. We have guests here with us. Some of them are leaving, some of them are going to stay, but of course, voting is, we're not checking IDs. It's part of our community trust that only residents who are able to vote will vote on this issue. The issue is, should the Greater Avenues Community Council, as party to the restrictive covenant number 3608995, dated 9/18/1981, currently restricting 18 properties, release our interest in the covenant, thus aligning their zoning with that of surrounding properties. This is a yes or a no vote. What we're going to do, okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to pass ballots around to you, ask you to fill those out, and then we will collect them at the end of the aisles. So we're not going to have anybody get up because we don't have a lot of time tonight because we have so many things on our agenda. So the ballots are coming toward you tonight. Please just fill them out, fold them in half. You can pass them down if you need to. The Zoom poll is open, and so that will be open for 5 minutes. Are there any questions about, yes?
So, I was wondering if besides just short write-up and the newsletter, was there any, like, just general discussion about it?
We did discuss at the meeting last month.
Okay, last month?
Yes, we did. Mhm. It was, and we did discuss it at the meeting.
Everyone get a ballot?
Yes. So there was information prior to last month's presentation, then there's a recap again in this month's newsletter, so it was noticed.
This is aligned with every other home.
All right, has everyone had a chance to vote and have their ballot collected? All right. The online poll is okay. All right, the online poll is closing. All ballots have been collected. Thank you.
Is this on? Oh, it is. Hi. We're gonna change topic now. Many of you may have attended, the meeting last month when we.
Call to order.
Oh, is it? Thank you. Last month, in our October meeting, we talked about the slate. We added some names to the slate for people that were at the meeting and wanted to join our board. And so what you can see on the screen. Keep talking. Oh, no, it's that is, you're good. Okay. We don't have any contested races, so we can vote on the full slate. You'll see the chair, Joseph Murphy, AKA Jersey, was elected in 2022. And Mayoral Morgan, who will be our past chair, was elected in 2021. So we're not voting on those two offices, but we are voting on the chair-elect, Diane Leonard, the the secretary, Steve Miller, and the treasurer, Ryan Kendrick, and all of the other people that have stepped forward and said they want to serve on our board. This is exciting. It's a delightful board. We're going to have a lot of fun. And our committees are just going to function smoothly, and we're going to be a very happy board. So I just need a straight up and down vote on this. So all those in favor of approving this slate as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone on Zoom? Anyone opposed? Please speak up. Is there anyone on Zoom voting nay? We have one nay vote, and I do understand why he's voting yes, he is. So thank you. The ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Next on our agenda are our community reports. So we'll start with Jen Daly Provo. Jen, are you there? Okay, how about Chris? You want to come up?
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Hello. Good to see everybody. So the main issue that the council's been working on, or the main two issues in the last month since I talked to you, is we did pass the anti-gentrification, anti-displacement ordinance called Thriving in Place. And that ordinance, well, it's actually, we just passed the plan. There'll be a series of ordinances that will come after. But it's sort of a roadmap to help with anti-gentrification displacement issues. And then we had the hearing on the affordable housing incentives. The vote for that has not been scheduled yet, so there's still time to weigh in if you didn't get a chance to comment, but the comment period at the council meetings is closed. You can still make comments that'll still be part of the public record if you email them to the city council or to me. And the email all of the city council members is council.comments@slcgov.com. Other than that, let's see. That was really the most exciting thing that I have, I'm sorry. But if there are questions or anything, I'm happy to field those. Anything going on in the city or anything in our district? No?
There's
Yes.
a question on the chat.
Yes.
Or more just a request. Please check in when Salt Lake County is going to dredge the Memory Grove Pond and City Creek stream bed.
Okay. I will check on that and get back to you. I've not heard about that, but well, I'm sure everybody's already heard by now, but I did want to talk about the closure of City Creek, but I think they can't pretty much cover that during Mayoral. So if there are any questions about it, I'll hang out after and answer them. But just to clarify, the closure is only on weekdays and not excluding, or it excludes holidays and weekends, and it's only for the part that's north of the Bonneville Loop. Up to the guardhouse will still be open, yes.
The mayor mentioned this, but
Yes.
I heard something or read something 2 days ago about how they were thinking of keeping it open weekdays up to picnic area 16. So I feel like there's miscommunication or not, everything's not understood.
They extended the date. Yes, the question was that someone had heard that it was gonna remain open during weekdays. And that there was some confusion about that. So the close date was supposed to be last weekend, but to extend it as long as they could, and given some changes that happened with the contractor, it's now open until November 12th, I believe. Do you have that information?
Yes.
Okay.
You want me to share now,
Is the
or-
12th right?
I don't have that specific date, but I do have the details in terms of the opening.
Okay, I'll let you give more details on it, but yes, it's been extended, so it's gonna be open a little bit longer. Any other questions? All right, good to see you all. Please remember to vote. Your ballots should be in the mail if you haven't already received it today or tomorrow. Make sure and call the county clerk. It is ranked choice and it is primarily vote by mail. I hope you'll participate. Yes.
I do have the text from City Creek Canyon,
Oh, good.
and they indicate that the road will remain open until the 15th.
Excellent,
of
even
this
longer.
month. And the 16th will begin the restrictions Monday through Friday.
Yes, so the text message that somebody in the audience was able to clarify, it will remain open until November 15th. And then after that, it will be closed only Monday through Friday during the week. Otherwise, it will be
The
open.
only other thing that they add here is that for the next 3 nights, there will be construction on Bonneville Boulevard
Correct,
from 8 PM to 6 AM.
correct. Oh, and also to clarify, Bonneville Boulevard will remain open throughout, and it'll still be one way as it has always been. So don't worry about that as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Jen Daly?
Hi, everybody. Thank you. And thanks to the Greater Revenues Community Council for having our candidates speak this evening. It was very informative for me, and grateful to everybody, of course, for attending today. Happy Indigenous Peoples Month. I will be brief. Couple of things coming up. Our last interim session is November 15th, where this is one of the most active interim sessions where we'll be actually hearing and voting on bills. If committee bills during interim get a unanimous vote, then they actually go straight to the House floor on the first day of session. So those will be the first bills that we will address and pass during the session coming up. So if you have a topic that you're particularly interested in and want some guidance or thoughts on following those, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Text is the best place, always the best place to reach me. I'll put my my cell phone number and email in the chat. If you have something really lengthy, go ahead and email me and then shoot me a text and let me know that there's an email waiting for me so that I can be sure to look for that. If you can do me a favor when you do email, put the word constituent in the subject line, because that gets filtered into a special box that I always check first. Make sure you spell constituent correctly. It's an easy one to miss. I do have 2, maybe 3 committee bills that I'll be presenting next week after next that I hope will get unanimous support from committees. One of them is a circuit breaker bill that allows for people at certain income levels to get a break on their property tax if, especially people on fixed incomes. And so we're looking at amending the code, the tax and rev code, to make that more family friendly for families in Utah, especially as home prices continue to go up and the property taxes commensurate with that go up. The second is a bill that amends and updates our industrial hemp industry. And then I may have, here's Maggie, I may have a bill, committee bill that I'll be able to present on updating some of the code around our ballot initiatives, which I've been working with constituents and community members on. So I'm really hopeful that we can make some progress on the onerous restrictions on ballot initiatives in the state. And then immediately after special session on November 15th, we will convene for an extraordinary special session to elect a new House Speaker. You may have heard that Speaker Wilson has resigned his seat in the House of Representatives to move on to other political aspirations. And so that triggers a new vote for the speaker, and depending on who wins that race, that may trigger a domino effect in majority leadership in the House. And so we may see some significant changes in leadership prior to the session coming up. Other than that, I'm working on a lot of different bills, which you can look up on the website at le.utah.gov. Happy to answer questions or concerns about some of the things that I'm working on. And at this point in the game, it's hard to start new policies, but it's certainly doable if there's broad community support for a policy that I'm not working with, you'd like to see some progress on. And with that, it is getting late, so I will hand it off to the next speaker, and I'll stay on chat if you have questions. And of course, I'll post my information in the chat, and it's on the GACC website for those attending in person. And also always wonderful to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate you being a working mom on our behalf.
Thank you.
Alicia from the mayor's office, and then Ashley Anderson. She is able to answer any questions you might have, but didn't have particular information to deliver. So if you have questions for school board, that will be next.
Thank you. Stand right here. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm your community liaison to the mayor's office. My name is Alicia de Leon. The updates that I have for you today is on funding, the active construction zone in City Creek Canyon, invite to the Human Rights Commission, and a call to explore improved public green spaces in downtown. Applications for the 2024 cycle for the Salt Lake City's arts, culture, and events. ACE Fund begins today. Applications are open. The application process is open for the entire month of November. So it starts today, ends December 1st. This is the annual grant program that is designed to support neighborhoods like yourselves. That is open to support neighborhood and community events in Salt Lake with awards ranging from $500 to $10,000. There are 4 information sessions. One will be tomorrow from 5:30 to 6:30. It will be held at the Sorensen Community Campus in the Black Box Theater. I have flyers in the back if you're interested in attending. Also, you are invited to learn about the Green Loop project. It's in downtown. You are welcome to attend. It starts tomorrow as well. I have flyers in the back. There are 2 opportunities for you to attend a 45-minute walking tour with project designers. There's one at noon. Actually, there's 3, at noon, 2 p.m., and 4:30 p.m. The event is happening from 12 to 6:30. And designers will be discussing about the draft design for 200 East. And they will discuss the draft and the visualization of it. If you're unable to make it in person, you can visit the project website, which is saltlakeCityGreenLoop.com. That's the flyer in the back. So for the City Creek Canyon information, let's see. Okay, so a bit of information. So it starts today. The undergoing major upgrades start today. Originally designed in 1953 and brought online in 1955, the plan has been an integral component of Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities drinking water supply for over 65 years. Aged infrastructure has resulted in several structural and mechanical deficiencies that must be addressed to restore the resiliency and reliability needed for this critical water supply. So the information that I received was that the city has found a way to keep the hiking trails open up to picnic site 16 in the canyon during the 3-year construction of the water treatment plan. And I have a text, let me pull it up. So I don't have specific dates, but it says the hiking trails will be open to picnic site 16. We're still looking for any and all windows during construction where we can open City Creek Canyon Road to bikers, runners, and walkers. In addition to openings on weekends and holidays, which has been already announced. Please follow Salt Lake City Public Utilities for updates. And you can also join or visit keepitpurecitycreek.com for updates on that. Let's see, the last invite I have is from the Human Rights Commission. They invite you to their 75th anniversary Universal Declaration of Human Rights Day. This will be on the Saturday, December 2nd, to the flyers in the back. The event will be held at the Gallivan Center from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you'd like to RSVP, the code is right there. I think the deadline is for tomorrow as well. And that is it. I have other stuff, but I can email it to the board. Questions, comments, suggestions? Yes.
The construction on 2nd Avenue has diverted what would normally be B Street traffic. That is speed limit of 25 miles an hour onto A Street, which is speed limit of 20 miles an hour. In addition, we've got heavy construction vehicles climbing that steep hill and doing axle transference and beating up the road. So boy, it'd be nice if we could finish that 2nd Avenue project.
I will take that feedback back to transportation. Thank you so much. It's good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
When can we ride a bike up City Creek Canyon? Confusing information.
When?
When can we ride a bicycle up to 16 or 15 or 30?
When can you ride a bicycle up to the canyon? Currently, you can't do that right now.
It closes on the 15th.
So I'm here, as I said, I'm here. I rode up yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought it was closed today. Now I'm here on the 15th.
I got the
Now
text
I'm
this
here
morning.
in
We got the text this morning. If you sign up for the City Creek Canyon, you get text. And they texted this morning and said, good news, we can keep the canyon open until the 15th.
After the 15th, do I allowed to ride in at all or just?
No, it's closed after the 15th. You can ride on weekends and holidays.
So you can ride on weekends?
Weekends and holidays.
Is that odd and even days?
But only the 16th. No one will be allowed past 16 until January 2027.
So let me give you my business card and we can exchange phone numbers, but I can also give you more updated information tomorrow and I'll send it to the board. Yes?
Okay. And then we'll always keep it updated on our website as we get more information. So maybe public utilities and the website, the Greater Avenues. Is Ashley on?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay,
Hi, everybody. As Marilee mentioned, I don't have a lot of new news for the topics that GAC has really cared about, like school closure or bonding. But I can quickly share that there's a date for the public hearing regarding potential boundary changes in long-term school closure. And that will be held on Tuesday, December 5th at 6:30 p.m. in the West High Auditorium. The public hearing has no end time, so any community member will have the opportunity to speak without signing up. So again, you can save the date for Tuesday, December 5th at West High at 6:30, and I'll send that to everyone for the next newsletter. Following the public hearing and other opportunities for public comment, and in keeping with the timeline for state statute, the board will not vote on any recommendations until our first business meeting in January. So that's when I'll have more updates for you all. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Knowing time is super tight, I can also just put my email in the chat. And as a reminder, it's ashley.anderson@slcschools.org.
thank you, Ashley. Is Marie Stewart online? She is. Okay, let's turn some time over to Marie, and then that will be our final community report, and then I'll have Diane report on the vote.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hopefully you can. Okay, so I'll keep mine very brief as well. This is the first day of the month, and so we don't have the crime statistics out. It usually takes a few days for our analysts to compile all the information from midnight last night and then present them to our CompStat data. So just a few reminders. It is getting cold. I was just camping in Wyoming last weekend, low of 11. I won't be doing that anymore. It's too cold. So reminders with that, car warming. This is the time where car theft increases tenfold. People warm their cars up. They'll go inside for a minute to go grab their cell phone. In that time, there are people driving around just looking for idling cars. They drop off a passenger, pop out, and your car's gone. So if you are warming your vehicle, stay in the vehicle the whole time. I can't stress this enough. This is the biggest thing that we as citizens can do to prevent car theft, because it does increase so much in the winter time. Vehicle burglaries, we have noticed a slight increase. So a reminder, just in the downtown area, not necessarily in the greater avenues, but reminder to not leave anything in your vehicle, not even a jacket. People will walk by and see if they can see anything in the vehicle. If they see a jacket or a blanket, they might think something's hiding. Bust the window or open up the car. They're looking for those vehicles that have things in them that they can see. So another thing for prevention. We have increased our hours for our overtime officers that will be in the downtown area. They will be working with the city's Heart Team. Yay, Heart Team. I love them so much. They're amazing. And we've been working with them so well. So the police have a shuttle to try and help get everyone to shelter this year. I think last year we saw the cold temperatures. I hear rumors that it will be very cold this year. I don't know, but it's Utah, so we can just plan for the worst and hope for the best. So really trying to encourage people to get to shelter. There is a lot more shelter this year than ever before. It's amazing. So the police do have a shuttle available. So if you know anyone or see anyone that does want to get to shelter, we can give them a ride, or the city's Heart Team. Yeah. So we're working with them. We have implemented another overtime with a party car. This is a vehicle on weekends that only takes loud party calls. And this is really good because Greater Avenues and East Central, we have a lot of university students that live in those areas and have had a lot of problems with loud parties. So we just got funding to have overtime every weekend to only answer the calls for loud parties. So very good news, some good updates, good things coming down the pipeline. Everyone stay safe, stay warm, don't underestimate the weather and what it can do in your drive. Slow down as you're driving, and let's all have a great and safe winter. Does anyone have anything for me?
Yeah, so if we see or contact somebody who is homeless and they want to get a ride to the shelter, how do we get them in touch with you? They're not gonna have a phone, so.
How do you get heart rides for people that want rides to the shuttle? Shelter.
So you can direct them to any of the shelters, and they can ask, and the shuttles can be contacted, or you can even call the non-emergency line. And so our overtime officers are now working 24/7. So that's another change, is that we increase their hours to every hour of the day, every day of the week, which is amazing. So call the non-emergency line and say, hey, we have some unsheltered folks who need a ride to shelter and they want to go. So
And
they'll contact.
is that number 799-3000?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. And it's in the newsletter as well. So thank you. Great.
All right, so thank you to everyone who participated in the vote. We had a total of 53 votes, 46 yes, 7 no. We had one that we're going to mark as an abstain. It was a blank folded up one. So the motion carried. The next step is that what we will do is we will work with the city to write a letter releasing our interest in this covenant. That will then be forwarded to the city council, who will take it up, and will decide if the city will release their interest in the covenant as well. Any question? Yes, the vote totals were 46 yes, 7 no, 1 abstain.
Can I have a minute?
Due to time and out of respect for the library staff, our time is up. I felt like it was important that we gave the candidates as much time as possible. So we will forego open forum tonight and anticipate socializing with all of you next month. This meeting is now adjourned.